Welcome to the Podcast of Power, the only podcast on the internet or anywhere in the entire universe that is dedicated to the Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power. We're talking about the finale of the first season with the name Aloyd, or it could be Alloyd.
A Christopher Lloyd.
A Christopher Lloyd. Come on, we have to go back. We have to get the rings.
We have to tell you who Sauron's been this whole time.
We're going to do a little bit of a flip-flop on you. You're going to think it's going to be this guy, but it's really this guy.
Oh, my God.
Of course, I'm Mike White, and joining me is Mr. Chris Stachiw.
Yep, I'm here, but I'm Sauron, but I'm not Sauron. I promise. We'll sort it out halfway through.
I'm secretly Sauron. Oh, wait, no, I'm not.
No, I'm not. Right. I don't know that I'm Sauron yet, but they're going to tell me that I am. Oh, boy.
Yeah. So we're coming to the end of the first season, bringing a lot of stuff together. We've got all of our 4 stories combined in this episode that we don't. No, I take it back. We've got 3 of the 4 stories.
Don't see the dwarfs.
Well, you don't. Okay. All right. We're getting fewer and fewer. I really misspoke. I really put my foot in it here, Chris.
Your hard foot?
You don't see the dwarves, and you don't see Bronwyn and all the people of the Southlands. They're just hanging out in the smoke and dirt, I suppose.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about them. Huh. Yeah. Weird.
So we're really only dealing with the elf story. We kind of have a little bit of the Numenor story going on in here, and then we've got the Harfoots. So just the sexy people.
Yeah, boy. And right out of the gate, Mike, they did exactly what you said they were going to do.
Which is what?
Reveal who the stranger was.
Oh, yeah. He's Sauron.
Like, I appreciate what they were trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the whole shot of Markella Kavanaugh as Nori with those blue eyes only for the trailers. That's all for the trailers, baby.
Well, no, it was in the
I know, but what it
yeah.
meant had nothing to do with anything.
Right. Basically just showing us that the Dweller can take any form that she wants.
Right. But yeah,
the Nomad.
Nomad.
Yeah.
So Sauron is the stranger.
Yeah, Sauron's a stranger. Yeah. And they've got those staffs that I don't remember seeing before, but the staff is very clearly modeled after the Tower of Mordor and the big eye in there. So I'm just like, oh, yeah, these are totally servants of Sauron, and they're here to bring the big boss back. Hey, we know you don't remember exactly who you are right now, but you're really important. You're going to come with us, Dark Lord, unless those darn hobbits get in the way.
Right. Lenny Henry making his way right off the show. End of the first season, I guess. Yeah. What a shame, but it makes sense. I mean, he did what he needed to in the show, I guess. I mean, ultimately. Yeah. And I guess the Harfoots get in the way of the 3 our 3 friends, the I don't know, the shaved head twins from The Matrix Reloaded.
I was thinking of the 3 precogs from Minority Report. Personally.
That's fair. Yeah, that too. But it turns out, ladies and gentlemen, that the stranger is not actually Sauron.
Wait a second.
Excuse me, Sauron.
We just established that he's Sauron, and he seems fine with that. He's okay with that. So why are you doing this to me?
Also, why can he talk?
Oh man, he's definitely increased his vocabulary after the last few films.
Yeah,
sorry, a few episodes.
I find it funny. It's weird. Like all of a sudden he can talk, and he's like, it was so kind of cringy. Where he's like, I'm not bad, I'm good. Like, oh. Okay.
Well, we're doing the wizard fighting thing, which is already pretty funny. It's not as funny as it is the first time that we see
Gandalf breakdancing.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
But they kind of do it here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole like, I'm going to twist this staff and it's going to twist your body, mister. And then I'm going to push this staff. And it's going to push you right in these rocks. And don't worry, you'll be okay.
But it turns out after the stranger and these little these little sycophants fight, that the stranger kills them, turns them into moths because he's shockingly, unsurprisingly, actually just fucking Gandalf.
So is that one of his many names?
The Ishtar are the wizards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, so he could be another wizard. We don't know that.
Follow your nose, sir.
He looks like Gandalf. He talks like Gandalf.
And he quotes Gandalf.
Yeah.
Oh, man. But
he could be Saruman. You don't know.
He could be.
Yeah.
But he's not. He's Gandalf. And look, I know that there's been plenty of interviews in the since 24 to 48 hours since the episode came out with Daniel Wayman, and they're like, "Hey, are you Gandalf in the show?" And he's like, I don't and it's like, because again, there's nothing wrong with it being Gandalf. That's fine. And what happens at the end of this episode with his storyline? It's kind of what I want. Gandalf and the Hobbit going out into the world together. How about, right?
It's showing us what he's going to do at least 2 more times with 2 other hobbits.
Yeah. So, and I find it kind of funny because before it was Gandalf and Frodo, but not really. We never really get a lot of just the 2 of them. And then Gandalf and Bilbo, you get a little bit more of the 2 of them. But this is going to be like a Hobbit and Gandalf for probably, I don't know. I mean, probably the next couple seasons. Maybe this is the pairing for the rest of the show. Who knows?
Yeah.
But it's exciting. It's not surprising that it's Gandalf, really. I think on the first episode we did of this, I was like, I'm pretty sure it's Gandalf. But the way they dressed him was a dead giveaway. The way he looks was a dead giveaway, right?
Yeah. I'm still holding out hope that he's secretly Tom Bombadil, or at least that they have an entire season dedicated to Tom Bombadil at some point.
It just literally cuts away to what he's been doing for an entire season and then comes back at the end. Yeah. People would love that.
Oh boy. All the songs, every musical episode, that would be fantastic.
Right. Yeah. But hey, we so if the stranger is not Sauron, Mike, who is? Because that's also answered this episode. Because of course it had to be.
Yeah. Nori's father. We knew it the whole time.
Right. Yeah. That would have been so funny.
And there are those of us, and he rises up and suddenly grows 4 feet tall. Yes,
I am the true Sauron. No, it's the character who totally wasn't just created for the show.
Yeah. I like that reveal. Though I'm very curious how, again, going back, how did he get on the raft? Is he just shipwrecked out there with a whole bunch of people? What was his thing? And he's trying to be good. He thinks he can be good. He's going to try to heal the whole world. What Morgoth did, once Morgoth was dead, it felt like he wasn't being held down anymore. He wasn't being choked off by Morgoth. He's going to try to heal Middle Earth, Sure.
Make Middle Earth great again. It's is it too on the nose? It's a little on the nose, right?
It's a little on the nose.
Even for me, it's a little on the nose.
When he goes to Mordor and he's got all of those secret documents in the boxes with him, I was like, really?
Get out.
We're doing that?
Get away. Get out of here. It was a little only I can save you. Only I can. Yeah. And, the whole tempting of Galadriel. I mean, it works.
Gets tempted a lot,
Yeah, very, very temptable as a character, especially in the original 3 movies.
And if I were to have the ring, I would be a great and terrible queen.
Yeah, and we get that here, essentially.
Yeah.
Which I think, look, if you know anything past the original books about how the rings were made, then when Halbrand is like, well, this is what you could do, and this is what you could do, and that's okay, you're Sauron.
Oh yeah.
Because Sauron was in the ear of Celebrimbor the whole time, he was there helping make the rings, either in a corporeal form or not.
Oh, see, I didn't know any of that, but I thought it was very suspect when it's just hey, did you ever think about using an alloy or something? And he's like, oh wow, I've been doing this thing for thousands of years, and I never thought of an alloy. Thank you so much, Halbrand. That's a great suggestion.
Yeah. We, the men of the Southland, okay.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, what I find it funny is the entire narrative now for the show is Galadriel saw what Sauron is trying to do, and so to counteract that, they do what Sauron was trying to get them to do.
Yeah.
It's like, are you guys fucking morons? Like, what were you like? Don't do the thing that he said.
Yeah, he is obviously trying to get to the point where I honestly thought, because we have her going into that dream world and meeting up with her quote unquote brother and yada yada yada, and we get her being saved from drowning, and I was like, that's not really her. That's actually, because we just saw shape-shifting in the the earlier segment. I was like, this is actually Halbrand. This is actually Sauron here. He's the one that's getting them to just really do this stuff and get the ring. And she's acting so squirrely. I was like, oh yeah, but no, she's acting squirrely because she doesn't want to say, oh, by the way, I found Sauron and he's Halbrand. It's like,
and I brought him to Eregion.
Yeah, and you should be like banging on a huge drum, being like, hey, I fucked up and this is happening and we shouldn't do what he was trying to get us to do. Let's do the opposite. But no, instead, we're going to make these beautiful rings with the stones and everything. They could be plain bands, but we're going to put some very beautiful stones in here, and we're going to continue to play with this thing of threes, because we have the three people that were looking for Sauron that ended up finding Ishtar instead. We've got the three female hobbits that are alive after Lenny Henry is dead. And now we've got these three elves. And yes, 3 is the magic number. Yes, it is. It's the magic number. And that's why they make the 3 rings, because we don't have enough to make a crown. No.
We got enough to make rings.
We can do rings, we can make alloys, and we have to, sorry, we got to use some gold and silver from the homeland. So we got to take that dagger, yours, Galadriel, and melt that thing down.
Yeah, it needs the gold and silver from Valinor. So,
yeah.
I mean, they kind of undercut the emotional weight of that by having that weird like hallucination scene exist, because like that hallucination scene doesn't really feel like it has a conclusion. It just kind of ends. And I didn't understand why they wanted to undercut that moment and then undercut it further by having her pony up the dagger, because now it's like, okay, well, I guess the only representation that you have of your brother anymore is just the Ring of Power. Which admittedly, I don't even know if I know that they, in the original 3 movies / the original books, I'm not sure they're even wearing them.
Right.
I think they're hidden away.
Well, yeah, after Sauron figures out how to, in the darkness, bind them, as if it were, it feels like you would get rid of those things right away.
If you could take them off. I mean, again, that's the thing. Like if Sauron would, again, that's the whole thing about these rings is Sauron was trying to make it so you couldn't take the ring off. You know, he has power over you and you have the ring on. And so by him making a skeleton ring, as it were, it overrides all the other rings. But now it just feels like the characters did something really stupid. For no reason.
And so what are they going to do? Is it going to be this season? It's 3 rings for Elven Kings under the sky. Is it going to be next season? We get the 7 for the Dwarf Lords and their Halls of Stone. Season 3 is the 9 for mortal men doomed to die. And then season 4 is the Dark Lord. And then season 5 is the battle against Sauron.
I mean, it kind of feels like it, right?
Guess.
I have no idea. Because, I mean, the characters that we've seen, we've only met 2 of the 3 characters who even wear those rings. Because Elrond doesn't get one of those rings.
He doesn't.
No, the elf, I think the elf's name is Círdan, who gets the 3rd ring. Because it's Gil-galad gets one, Galadriel gets one. And then this 3rd elf, who hasn't even been cast in the show yet, gets the ring. Yeah.
Okay, I was thinking it was Celebrimbor wore one and Elrond wore the other, and then Galadriel. So
none of the people who made the goddamn rings should have any right to wear them. But that's just me. It's just what they're doing in this episode with how the rings are made. Like, I'm shocked that the rings were made this early on in the show. I think we kept joking that they would unfurl the scroll and be like, these are the rings. Like I couldn't have told you by the end of the first season we'd have 3 rings already.
Right.
But
they do unroll the scroll though to prove out that Halbrand is a liar.
That's true, but it doesn't have 3 rings on it the way we were expecting.
I kept thinking every time he'd be like, that line was broken, I'd be like, it was remade.
I like the reveal that he's Sauron. I'm having a hard time because he's just a guy.
Yeah.
It's weird, right?
Yeah, I mean, now I can see why he was breaking arms in Numenor, but I am curious how he was saying, I wanted to stay in Numenor. I was like, oh, okay. I wonder why that is.
Oh, I know why.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. It is a pretty big, it has to do with what we've seen already in Numenor.
Oh.
A flash forward scene, or a not flash forward, but what is it? Foreshadowing scene. You remember when the queen sees the wave coming?
The wave, right?
Yeah, that Sauron is a liar. The devil is a liar. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, that's the thing. One of Yashar, who I do the Game of Bros podcast, him and I were going back and forth, and he was like asking similar questions, like how did Sauron get on that thing, and isn't it convenient? And it's like, yeah, but at the same time, like, he's the literal devil. Like, so he's going to lie and say whatever he needs to. And if you're the devil, you think you're saving people, right? But ultimately, one man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist. That's what it's supposed to feel like with Sauron. And I think the issue is they should have revealed it 1 episode earlier to just give us a little bit more of who he is as Sauron, not as Halbrand, because he's been forward projecting as Halbrand, and that character has been very little of anything. And now that he's Sauron, it's infinitely more interesting. But we got to see all of 1 scene of that. And I know that it's going to be the next season, but I just feel like last episode would have been a good time to reveal it, just so we could maybe get a little bit of an idea of what this character is, just so they can kind of maybe even help just recontextualize a little bit more of what happened throughout the season. Because it is a twist. It is 100% a twist.
Yeah. Well, I really didn't get it until they put Halbrand's name on screen, and then it burned and it changed to Sauron.
I wanted that so bad. In the credits, it's like, yes. Halbrand, Sauron. Like, all right, I'm fine.
We do get a little pit stop over in Numenor with Erin, I think her name is, Isildur's sister.
Yeah.
And this whole thing of like, hey, you can draw the king. I don't really get what's going on here, but like, all right, you can draw the king and propose a design for his tomb. So come on in. You're one of many apprentice crafts people, and you're going to talk with the king or sketch him while he's on his deathbed. He wakes up, thinks that she is his daughter, the now blind queen, and sends her upstairs to basically uncover the Palantir up there, but we don't see anything, right? That's where it ends.
Right. Well, and he tells her, like, you will be queen, and you're not queen yet. And it's like, Aryan is a created character for the show.
Right.
So yeah, I don't have any idea where that story's going. I mean, when the queen and Elendil get back to Numenor right at the end of the episode, they show that the king has died. They show kind of the black banners, but I don't care about what's going on in Numenor. No. Like, not one fucking iota. And the reason is, when they show stuff in Numenor, it's like Game of Thrones, but the Game of Thrones House of the Dragon show right now is so good that, like, anybody else doing that is not going to be as successful. And even if Game of Thrones wasn't on right now, it would still seem like a facsimile of that show, because that's what they're going for. That's what this part of the show is trying to satisfy, are the Game of Thrones junkies who want to see the castle intrigue stuff, which really has never had any place in this narrative in the Lord of the Rings. It's never been about people fighting over the lines of succession. That's a Game of Thrones thing. Like, Lord of the Rings is always more worried about, like, external threats, and Morgoth and Sauron, and, really just those two. But but they fill up thousands of years of history. So there you go. With something like, Game of Thrones, it's like that whole show traffics in the castle intrigue, and the Numenor stuff in this show just can't keep up. And it's trying, but it cannot keep up. So I know we're going to get a lot of it next season, clearly, but I'm not looking forward to it. I'm not. And even where they left it, it's like, I don't care. Like, I'm shocked that Elendil went back to Numenor, frankly. Like, I was expecting him to hang out in Middle Earth, but I guess it makes sense that he didn't.
Yeah. So what is this whole thing that he's talking about where he's like, well, my name means stars, but also, it's got another meaning too. Wink, wink. And we know the other meaning. We know that it's friend of the elves. But what is this whole thing that he's doing with the queen and just them like, it's a real hard burden. Oh, yes, it is. And it's like, what are you guys like Masons or something? What's going on? What are you talking about?
I'm not sure about that. I know that Elendil becomes like the founder of Gondor eventually, because again, I'm not going to spoil why he leaves Numenor again, but look, it's not spoiling something. Elendil has to fight Sauron, so he can't die. There's nothing that can change that story that significantly, because that would be a huge change to the story we've seen so far. But he leaves Numenor because of some things that we've kind of already talked about, and he goes and becomes essentially like the king, And Elendil also is, I believe, like the great grandfather of Aragorn.
I think you're right.
Right. So, right, because Isildur's heir, and Elendil was Isildur's dad. So Isildur's heir is Aragorn, right? So I don't know what the hell that's all about. To not answer your question, I don't know. I mean, it could be some direction that they're taking stuff in Numenor next season. Again, I hope so. There's got to be more going on in Numenor than what we've seen so far, because it's not interesting.
Yeah, you're right.
It's a worst part of the show, without even comparison. I don't understand. People want to complain about the casting stuff and the other stuff. Complain about the Numenor stuff just being straight up boring. Just a very poor facsimile of a better show. Yeah.
It's an island. It's a literal island. And it feels like every single time we visit Numenor, everything else just stops.
Yeah.
That it's not connected to anything else. And, there's the famous line, you're a part of this world. It should be more present. There should be more of a reason for me to want to see what you're doing. And Michael Sheen looking guy, he's there creeping out and stuff. And I'm like, oh God, I'm so tired of you. I don't need more of you in my life.
No. And it's clear that we're going to be getting a whole lot of it.
Yeah.
And in a really big way. Because, we have Pharazôn, and that's going to be, I'm not looking forward to that part of this show moving forward. Unless, again, they do something really interesting and unique with the story. But I don't see what that could be, because I know where the story's going, and it's not a particularly interesting story anyways, where the narrative goes, but it's okay. Everything else in the show is pretty good. I think, we haven't seen the dwarfs, which I think was kind of another weird misstep with this episode. Was not, but I guess their story was kind of over for the season.
Yeah, we left them in a strange but interesting place.
Yeah, because last thing we saw was the Balrog. Right.
And then also, Durin and his wife, and just her really setting him up against his father.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I like the dwarf storyline so much in this show that I obviously would like more of that almost more than anything else. But
yeah, along with not seeing Bronwyn and Theo, we also don't get to see Adar, what he's up to now. But I'm sure he and his whole thing of I killed Sauron. It's like, I'm wondering if he's up for a surprise next season when Sauron comes, kind of sauntering back into camp. But I did like how Adar's words managed to be repeated by Celebrimbor. I was like, oh, that's kind of nice.
Which ones?
When it's when he talks about how Sauron is trying to do a new thing. He's not trying to, oh God, what was it? He's trying to unite. Basically, it's his whole thing of I'm trying to unite things. And then Celebrimbor says that, and Galadriel's like, "Where'd you hear that?" And like really jumps all over it. And I'm like, oh, that was Halbrand was telling him that, and
right, that's
that
right.
we didn't see. You remember that now?
Yeah, I do. I remember it because of the way she reacts.
Right.
To being like, oh, you heard that from Halbrand, who heard that from Adar. Like,
I was feeling a little crazy.
No. Now I know what you were talking about. I know. And what's funny about, again, the Halbrand reveal is like, who else could it have really been in this entire season of the show?
Right. Well, that makes those interactions now between Halbrand and Adar have even more weight in that last episode where he's like, "Hey, do you remember me?" And Adar's like, no idea who you are, man. What's going on? Why are you so mad?
Yeah, I'm going to go back and rewatch that scene again because I watched it. I did exactly what you were talking about. I went and watched it, but I want to watch it. Like, it needs to be watched a couple times because, it's like weird because there's a lot of subtext going on that like is not known until you know who he is.
Right. Yeah. Here I was, I think last week saying like, what did he do? Kill his family or something? And it's like, no, there's a lot more to it. Like maybe he killed you.
Yeah. It's interesting. We'll see kind of what they've made some kind of big noises about Sauron being, like Walter White in the second season of the show, which I didn't know what the fuck that means. But I mean, if I think I know what they're getting at, he's going to be like it's going to be his story,
right?
Which will be interesting.
And also, Walter White was interesting because he was kind of reluctant in the role. And then the whole thing of Heisenberg and how Heisenberg was kind of, that might be Sauron versus Halbrand.
They're going to do like a Smeagol Gollum thing.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, we've already seen him split as far as his reflection in the water versus his reflection or his actual being above the water.
Yeah, with Galadriel, which I thought that was an interesting scene. They did some interesting camera work in this episode. There was that. There was the dissolve into Sauron's eyes with the rings of power at the end. Yeah. Like there was some really good imagery in this episode, especially and like with the when those three witches, or I guess Nazgul or whatever the hell they were, get turned into moths by Gandalf or the Stranger. I was like, oh, this show does not lack in a clearly high quality CGI budget, and quality imagery being used. And, I appreciate what they're doing with the look of the show. It's hewing ever closer to the Peter Jackson stuff. But I mean, I know that people are going to rag on this show, and they already have, and we've already seen it. And you know what? Fine. You are completely entitled to your opinion. But I think for me, they kind of landed the season, more or less.
I think so. I was happy with it. And by the way, I remembered what it was. It was the line about a power not of the flesh, but over flesh.
Right.
But I think that they did a pretty good job. I was happy with where they left things. And to your point, I like the little quotations of, when you're in doubt, follow your nose, that whole thing from when they're in Moria and he smells the fresher air. And then also even when she doesn't know which way to go, it was very Bilbo.
Or Frodo. When they're leaving, oh God.
Whatever the elf kingdom is.
Not Lothlorien, Rivendell.
Rivendell, yeah.
Yeah.
Not idly do the leaves of Lothlorien fall.
No. And I think it sets up an interesting second season. I mean, we have Sauron essentially pulling his best Sam and Frodo heading into Mordor. You have Galadriel. Again, that's the thing. Like where the elves are left is an interesting spot because all we know is that the rings have been made. That's it. There's nothing past that. So where they're going, I do not know. The Stranger and Nori are going to Rune for him to train to be a wizard, I'm assuming. So, but the lands to the east are like really not part of, like Rune is not a place that's really well documented in the source material. Yeah,
I was wondering where Rune is even just on the map. I haven't looked it up yet.
It's very far to the east.
Okay. Yeah, that is I've never really seen anything set there that I know of.
And I don't think a lot of things are set there. And I think that's why they're like, that's where he's going.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I mean, it makes sense in a way, because again, as far as I'm concerned, like the best thing about this show is that it has such a big world to play with. So it would be nice if they go to places we have not seen before, because now we have seen Eregion, which great. We have seen Numenor. Great. We've seen Moria or Khazad-dûm pre it becoming the Mines of Moria. Great. But show us more of the world. I want to see more of the world of the Lord of the Rings. Places that we have never, like genuine places that we have never seen before. They have 4 more seasons with 8 to 10 episodes a season. That's 24 episodes of this show. 24, 32, however, I guess be 32. Yeah. If they do 8 episodes a season, if they do more, it could be even more. But I want to see, I mean, that's my issue with the fucking Star Wars stuff is like, stop showing us the places we've seen before. Stop showing us the stuff we've seen before. And I want this show to do the same thing where it really, like, now that you've set up this world, now that you've given us our expectations, now that you've shown us things that we have seen before, things we haven't seen before, but the things that you've shown us help root us in this world, like really do something different. Like do something interesting and unique and very, I mean, again, they did some interesting stuff this season. There was a straight up horror scene with the orcs. Like when the show wants to do stuff that is not just Peter Jackson stuff, it still does kind of work. I want more of what we haven't seen, because this season, for better or for worse, showed us a lot of stuff that we had seen and gave us some stuff that we hadn't. But for the most part, like most of the places we went to, most of the things that we've seen, we have seen those kinds of things before in this world.
Yeah. No, I was glad that we went into new areas, and the look of this place is wonderful. I'm still a little concerned as far as how long does it take to get from one place to the other, and do we need to see that journey type of thing? Sometimes, I mean, God, you look at the Two Towers, and so much of that book and movie is the journey. You know, it's the second half of, well, really, it's the whole first movie as well. But, you know, like you really get the sense of geography from those movies. And with this, it's like Sauron pieces out and then he like just shows up at Mordor. And I'm like, okay. So I want to see that journey that the Stranger and Nori take next season. I want to see more of this world. I wanted to see more of the migration of the hobbits or Harfoots, but you know, that seemed kind of abridged as well.
It all kind of seems abridged, but it seemed abridged for a purpose, and the purpose being, I don't know, like
pacing. I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe we'll get the extended director's cuts. It'll be twice as long.
What I don't understand is why not just give us 10 episodes? Why give us 8? Like that's what I don't get. Like, what is served from not giving us a full 10? I think 8 episodes is so weird. It feels truncated. This season feels truncated. Right here at the end, right when it was like getting good, it just feels a little truncated.
Well, you know, George Costanza says, and on a high note. You know, you don't want to give them too much. Don't want to stick around too long.
I guess so. Do you think it ended on a high note?
It definitely left me wanting more. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I to your point, I would have loved to have had 2 more episodes of this before we now take our 1, 2, 3 year break, whatever it is between seasons here.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I mean, we joked about this, I think either last episode or the episode before, like we'll be doing this podcast for 10 years.
Yeah.
But we'll probably only be recording actively for like 4 months, 5 months. No, it'd be like 2 months every 2 years, right? So 2 times 5. So 10 months actively ever recording this show, because there is such a big time gap in between. But that's network TV for you. Like, or I guess not network TV, but that's this kind of TV where it's like people are doing other things, but also this is like a large undertaking that, you know, shooting those movies was one thing, but having to do that 5 different times it's a lot. It's a lot. And again, I think, whenever we come back with this show, it's going to be interesting to see what state the show comes back in.
Yeah. Are we picking right up the next day? Are we a day later, or a month, a year? Where are we going to be at?
Right. I wonder the same thing, because it feels like it's like 20 years from this point until Sauron's like overtaking and, you know, all, and like the big fight is a ways away.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It's 4 seasons away, but it's 20 years chronologically away. I wonder if they are going to just set the next season 5 years in the future.
Maybe. I mean, that would make Theo older. The Numenorians, if they really are the people that are going to give rise to the Dunedains and Aragorn, I mean, they all live longer as well.
Right.
So I guess, and dwarves age at a slower pace. It's not, come on, Durin. Like, cut the guy some slack. Like, you'll probably live. I think dwarves live what, like 300 years, something like that.
So I think so. Yeah, I don't think that they age the same way that mortal man does.
Right.
Mortal man is like, we haven't gotten to that point yet. We're still like essentially. I mean, even though Elendil and Isildur look like people, they're still essentially like kind of like Hercules. Like the Numenorians, they're not immortal, but they live rather long lives.
Right. Well, and this finally does confirm, and you probably knew this from forever ago, that Elrond is a half elf. And he had made mention of that in a previous episode, something about his mother or something. And I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. I didn't know that. And then he just straight up confirmed it this episode.
I hadn't even thought about it. I mean, they didn't really make mention of it up until this point. So I wonder if that's going to be a bigger part of the next season. But it was interesting that they kind of never really mentioned it, even though they had him on screen so many times.
Yeah. Janice tells me that you're half elfish. Yeah, just the good half.
Well, and it's weird because we've seen his dad show up so many times.
Yeah.
So his dad being Elrond. So I don't know. Or his dad being Gil-galad.
Okay. Me. I was like, what?
Yeah, I was confused.
I didn't realize that Gil-galad was his father.
Isn't he? Or am I crazy?
I'm not going to say either way because I wouldn't know.
Apparently I'm wrong.
Oh,
I thought he was. I thought he called him his son at one point.
Or was it one of those like, oh, yes, my son.
I think
you must do this.
It must have been that. It must have been that.
How much is that goose in the window there, my dear boy?
What now? I'm so confused.
I'm suddenly doing the end of A Christmas Carol.
I was like, are you doing Scrooge? Is that what
That's what it is.
Oh, man.
Yep.
I'm excited to see what we get next season from I'm excited to see where the show goes, but again, knowing somewhat of the narrative, like I know what they have to get to. I think I'm just excited to see like how long it takes to get there, what they're going to do when they get there, how they're going to subvert expectations when they get there. Because again, like the rings of power being forged is not given a lot of in-depth discussion in the books. So like it's interesting to see what goes into doing that in the show. Because again, it's like in the Game of Thrones show, it's like mentioned in history, but not gone deep into detail. It's like this happened, but we don't know like who said what to who and how they said it or what their motivations were. It's just one person was talking to or interacted with, or they did this thing. Like, and that's why it's so interesting that this show and that Game of Thrones show are on at the same time, because they're both using the same kind of source material to construct their shows. And I think that I really do think that this show, for all of its problems, has done a very good job in taking that narrative of Lord of the Rings that we know, expounding upon it in an interesting way, but also keeping with everything, like not changing it significantly. Because I feel like anybody who got a hold of this would want to do something where they're like, well, we can change things because it doesn't matter. And it's like, but there are people that do care. And I know that even though they didn't get the Silmarillion, they're still keeping to that basic idea of what the Silmarillion does. I know that they changed some things, but I think it's still pretty close, if you ask me. Again, I know that there are people out there who have much stronger opinions about this show and how it relates to the source material than I do. Yeah. So maybe I'm not the best source of information. I'm just willing to enjoy the show for what it is. And I think anyone who watches this show would be entertained regardless of their connection to or previous experience with Lord of the Rings. And I think for me, at the end of this first season, that is what's most successful about this show. Is it still a good show without those other Lord of the Rings things, The Hobbit and the original trilogy? It's still pretty good.
Yeah. It could be so much worse. And it's not. I don't think this is bad by any stretch of the imagination. I'm having a good time. Is it a little convoluted? Yeah. Do I need to rewatch this whole thing again? Yeah, but would I have already? Yes, I probably would have, because I have enjoyed this. And I think now in a second watch, it's going to come together a lot more, and I'm going to be able to pick up a lot more things. Yes. Nope, not yet.
I'm by.
There you are.
Speaking out.
Oh, now you went.
Checking my audio devices.
Yeah, you're kind of cutting in and out. Off.
Doing.
On.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. That was weird. All of a sudden, my Zoom just starts going, your default speaker has changed. Your default speakers are changing. And it's just no. Stop. I am trying to record. All right. I gotta So what did you, I didn't hear what you said. Everything cut out. All I could see was you talking.
I was just saying that. I am looking forward to a rewatch of this. This isn't going to be a chore. This is going to be pretty much a pleasure, as far as seeing now how things are going to fall into place, and just seeing these mechanisms that I probably was completely unaware of beforehand. So I don't think it's going to be a chore to rewatch this at all.
No, I'm right there with you. I want to go back and watch some of the interactions that Halbrand has with some of the characters, knowing now what we know. And it's not a stranger situation with his character where he doesn't know who he is. He knows who he is. Right. He's just not telling anybody who he is. And I will say he flips on the villain dial a little hard this episode. Like, he goes full bad guy and like full villain, full like kind of mustache twirling villain. He goes it a little hard.
Yeah.
It's a little, I'm not going to say it's a little out of the blue, but they could have done a better job of setting it up. But I'm interested to see what weird interactions he had with people earlier in the season that I haven't even thought about that he had. And now knowing, he's Sauron. So fuck, like that recontextualizes things.
Those poor people from the Southlands. Who's going to break that news to them?
That their king was Sauron?
Yeah. Sorry about that.
I don't know.
We crowned him a little too quickly. Sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I have to say, like, if I was that evil and I had to pretend to be a nice guy, like even just a little nice and not murder people all the time for a bit, I don't know. When I got a chance to be villainous, I would probably really start turning it on, because it's got to be so much fun.
That's fair. I mean, I'll say this much: Charlie Vickers has got the best job now in the show, getting to play Sauron. Like, you get to be a shitheel for the rest of the run of the show. Like, great. Like, I'm jealous, because that's going to be a fun role to see. I hope that they really do something interesting. I hope that they do something interesting with the character, because now you have an opportunity to give us Sauron, like the second villain of all time next to Darth Vader, as far as I'm concerned. Like, he's even better in a lot of ways, because we're 3,000 years ahead still. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the hard thing to remember. It's not like Gandalf and Frodo show up tomorrow. They show up so many years from now that these people are going to be long dead, other than the ones that can't die.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, I don't know. I wish that this show wasn't just 5 seasons, but I'm jealous of anybody who is listening to this in the future and is like catching up with our show in the future after the show's over. I'm jealous of you, because I am so excited to see where the show goes, even like more so than wherever Game of Thrones goes. Like this, there's a lot that they can do here, and I hope that they do it. I really hope that they rise to the occasion, because there have been glimmers of it in this season, of rather good TV, of really great TV. And that's what I want from this show, is great TV, not just good TV. When you've got Lord of the Rings, we as fans of the show, we as fans of TV shows in general, and the medium that is film, expect more, because Peter Jackson's already done more. And you, by picking up the mantle of Lord of the Rings, by saying we're going to be doing a show like Peter Jackson, you have big shoes to fill. And I'm not sure that they filled them yet. And they're not, you won't be able to answer that until the final episode plays for the final season. But so far, I think they've done enough to keep people around who were maybe on the fence, and I think it'll draw in enough new people through word of mouth over the next 2 years. I really think so.
I'm going to make a prediction. When we get the big fight, the big fight with Sauron losing the ring, I don't think that's going to be just in Mordor. I think there's going to be like multiple fights where we get to see all of these different groups and areas that we're experiencing through this whole thing, just to really show like this is all of Middle Earth that is having this battle.
It's an all-encompassing conflict.
Yeah, because that's one thing about the Return of the King, is that it all ends there at the gates of Mordor. and it's all just one big battle, all one place. Like we've kind of fought our way here a little bit, but like Helm's Deep, in retrospect, pretty small battle compared to what needs to happen at Mordor.
Right.
And so I think just having it more like, because we've been doing that through this whole series so far, this first season, going from place to place to place, I wouldn't be surprised if now we get cross-cutting of the big battle at the end.
And I'm with you. You know, I was going to ask you kind of what are your predictions for next season? What do you think we're going to see more of? What do you hope we're going to like? What do you hope we're going to see? What do you think we're going to see?
Well, I think we're going to really stick with the dwarves a lot more. And I am kind of not kidding about the way that the rings were given out and just the three this, you know, because we're used to the montage. We're used to just Galadriel basically reading the poem. Yeah.
Here are the rings. Here are the rings. Here are the rings.
And like, so maybe season 2 is very much like, who are all of the 9 dwarves that are going to get these rings, and follow their stories and see the whole way that everything falls apart in the elven kingdoms. You know, it doesn't seem like the elves are really doing well 3,000 years from now. And,
right.
You know, we've lost... You know, Moria is effed. Where Smaug is, I can't remember which kingdom that is, but
Erebor.
That's just, you know, decimated. So yeah, I would love to see more of the dwarf story. And I think going back to the Southlands and experiencing more of Theo Bronwyn and the elf, and I apologize for forgetting his name. Arondir, thank you. I think that will be something. And then unfortunately, I think season 2 will also deal a lot with Numenor.
Yeah, that's my big concern is the amount of Numenorian just bullshit that we're gonna have to deal with next season. Because again, they're one of the big things is what happens in Numenor and the conflict there and the conflict with where it ends up going. So I'm interested to see as well kind of where the show goes. I think I'm with you. I'm expecting a lot more dwarf stuff. I'm expecting maybe other humans coming into play in some form or fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously we're going to get more elves. I'm hoping maybe we see more of the elves that Arondir is, which I believe are like the elf, like the forest elves, as opposed to like the high elves, like from The Hobbit, those ones, the ones in Lothlorien, right? Those I would love. Is that Lothlorien where they are? No, Lothlorien is where Galadriel is. It's wherever the hell. I always just call him Ronan the elf, Lee Pace. the very Oklahoman elf.
Right.
Yeah. Wherever he is. That I want to see. I want to see what they're up to. I just want to see more of everything else that's happening. I'm not saying, you know, shuttle the rest of the cast, but I want to see more places and more characters that are unlike things we've seen in this world before, but that have been talked about and hinted at. And, you know, yeah, we'll see. It's exciting. The show has a lot of ground to cover before we get to inevitably where I think we both kind of perceive the show is going to end. So I think we both perceive it's going to end at that battle or sometime afterwards, but not much further after. If this show has Elijah Wood in it at some point, or any of if it flashes that far forward, I'm going to lose it. I know it won't, because this is not their story, thankfully. The Game of Thrones show could do that very easily because it's only like 200 years in the past. If this show did it, I would lose my mind.
They'll go to the lands that they sailed to, and we'll get both Bilbo and Frodo over there.
Oh, and the Grey Havens? Yeah.
And the Grey Havens, yeah. And it'll be a horrific Ian Holm deep fake.
Oh, I thought you were going to say that it would show them in a diner in New Jersey eating onion rings together.
That's when Gandalf comes in. Yeah. And he's got that same goofy look on his face from when Frodo wakes up, and he's just like all in slow motion.
As Samwise is outside trying to park the carriage out in front of the diner for like 10 minutes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. I think that this show is going to be pretty good the next 4 seasons, but it's going to be hard to it's going to be hard to top how good this last episode's reveals were handled. Like, I know it was on the nose, but like, the thing about this show is I don't know how many more twists they can do now, because like those were the two big twists that you could ever really do with this show, is who is Sauron and who is the character that's totally not Gandalf.
Right.
So maybe they'll introduce some more characters like that, but I don't know like if I want any more of that with the show. I feel like that was a good hook for the first season.
Yeah, you're right. I kind of hope that it's not like, well, in this season they reveal this, and over here it's like, oh no, this guy's actually Saruman, and this guy's actually this guy. It's like, no,
there are gonna be reveals, but like I hope they're just not like twisty reveals where it's like it's one person. It's like I don't want any more of what they did this season.
Right.
I think is probably the bigger issue. What was your favorite episode this season? Do you remember? Do you remember any of them sticking out to you more than others?
No, they were all pretty much the same. I mean, I think, oh man. Yeah, no, they're all pretty much even keel. I mean, there are favorite moments, like a lot of the stuff with Nori and when the stranger first arrives, those kind of things. I really liked you mentioned the horror movie moment when Bronwyn was getting stalked in her house by the orcs. But yeah, there weren't a ton of just like, oh, wow. Yeah, this sequence was fantastic. I mean, over the last 2 episodes, we've had a lot more of those kind of bigger sequences, and those have been great. But the first few were pretty quiet.
Yeah, I liked Udun a lot, the one where Mount Doom explodes. I thought that episode was pretty good. I mean, you have that interaction with Adar and Sauron. Now we know Sauron and Galadriel. I thought that for me, that was probably my favorite episode this season. And also, the reveal of Sauron and Gandalf are fine, but the reveal of what they were doing with Mount Doom, I think handled pretty well. I think it worked pretty well. I think it sets up, I mean, it had to happen for the show to go where it needs to go. And I think they did a good job. And I don't know, that was a more kind of reserved episode than I thought it was going to be. I know it had the Arondir, that stupidity with Arondir and killing all the orcs and all that. But I mean, other than that, I enjoyed that episode a lot. And I think, like you said, I think I just enjoyed the season as a whole. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think any one episode really was much better. Just Udun had some things that I think just kind of put it a little bit higher.
I wonder if, the explosion of Mount Doom was such a big thing this season, if the tidal wave is going to be the big thing next season,
Yeah. Well, and that's what I wonder. I mean, the Numenor story, it feels like they've already set the stage for it to happen sooner rather than later. But again, at the same time, they showed the Balrog too. Are we really expecting that the Balrog's going to show up next season?
First episode.
Right. It's got a little hat on. It's doing a little tap dance.
You remember me. I'm the Balrog.
Like Michigan J. Frog just dancing around.
You think there's many of us, but I'm the only one.
Yeah, God. Hello, my Gandhi. Hello, my Doran. God, get out of here. Yeah, I don't know. I hope, I know that the Balrog has to be one of the big ones and the wave has to be one of the big ones. So maybe, 2 episode or season 2 and season 3 and 4, who knows? It's interesting how much they've already shown that they're going to do, because my expectations for this season were not where we are now. I was expecting them to move a little bit slower. So I think the fact that they're not waiting to do a lot of these things is interesting, because in my mind, it just means they must have a lot of stuff that they want to do, a lot of stuff that they want to do with this show. So we'll see.
Are we going to be the kind of podcasters that when they release the trailer for next year's season, they'll probably do teaser and then trailer, right? Mm-hmm. Are we going to be those guys that come back and break in for a special episode just to talk about the big drop of the trailer today?
I think we're supposed to, now that you said it.
I think we are too.
we've sold out. They're taking our podcaster card away.
I mean, they don't do that for Columbo and Kolchak and Bernie Miller. So
show's already over, man.
This is new territory for me.
We need to
Chris.
we need to put thumbnails with our thing to where we're just like, oh. Crazy new
letters.
reveal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mike and Chris break down the new trailer.
Yeah. God.
Reactions, unboxings, all that stuff.
That's what that's Weirding Way Media is just becoming unboxing and reaction videos. Kids react to what's that movie called? Necromantic. That's what we're 5-year-olds react to the Cannibal Holocaust. Like, oh my God, what is this content they're making over there?
Tweens listen to Gwar for the first time.
I would edit that content. I would edit that content.
I would smash that like button, if you know what I mean.
Hit that subscribe button, baby. Bang, bang, bang. Just punch it repeatedly. Yeah, I guess we are those people now. I guess the next time you hear us coming to you will probably be, well, whenever they drop content for this show.
Yeah, there's no episode name for season 2, episode 1.
2.1, that's what it's called.
2.1.
Yeah, I don't know when that's going to be, dear listener. It could be a year from now. It could be, I won't be a year, probably like 8 months from now. But, if we choose to do any Lord of the Rings content in between now and then, this is probably where you'll find it as well. So, yeah, it's kind of weird. Mike mentioned it, like we do weekly podcasts, and it's weird to just be like, guess we're taking a break, because with the other shows that we've done, like Kolchak or Columbo or Barney Miller, like those shows end. They will end. There's a finite amount of episodes, and there's a finite amount of episodes of this, but not right now. There's not. I mean, there is a finite amount. We're at that moment now, but there's 4 more seasons. So I think we'll be doing this show until 2032.
Wow. Really?
Well, the next season doesn't come out until 2024, then 2026, then 2028, then 20. Wow. Yeah. So 2024, 2026, 2028, 2030. Now 2030. Wow. I get if they stay on track, mind. If there's not a writer's strike, if there's not, whatever, who the fuck knows? 10 years ago, if you had told me COVID would have happened, I would have said no way. That it did. I mean, remember, COVID derailed essentially the industry for 2 years. So,
right.
Who knows? But yeah, I guess 8 to 10 years is how long we'll be doing this show.
Well, yeah, I'm very curious when they started filming, because it feels like this stuff. I mean, did they actually shoot in Australia or New Zealand? Because this very much feels from the cast that it is like that type of cast.
It was filmed in New Zealand.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
the first season was filmed in New Zealand. That means who knows where they go beyond that.
Right. But I mean, New Zealand was one of the country's lightest hit, and they had really strict rules about stuff, kind of like Australia as well, though theirs kind of fell apart. But they were shooting stuff over there. I don't think they ever shut down their film industry, and they just adopted all the precautions right away. So I don't know when they started filming this.
I think they started filming it in 2018. No, okay. I think it was later than that. I want to say they said in 2018, that's when they were going to be filming it. And they started filming in 2020.
Mm.
So
March 13th, 2020.
Yeah, right. The most opportune day of all to start filming.
Exactly.
Oh, but boy. Yeah, I guess the next season comes out 2024. So, geez, it's a long time, man. If we did this kind of podcast and only this kind of podcast, we would never tire of podcasting, because we would not be doing podcasting consistently enough. Right. We would have what it feels like with this is like we would have to be doing only new shows to keep ourselves busy, because this show's over, right? But there's undoubtedly going to be something new that starts here in the next. Well, our friend Richard. His show, DC Titans, on HBO Max starts in less than a month. So, you know what I mean? Like, there are plenty of people who just go one show to the next show that's how you do it. And,
Well, I mean, Marvel, look at how they're doing their stuff on their TV channel. Just we're just finishing up this show, and then we're going to start another one right away. I mean, there was just a little bit of dead time after WandaVision before the Hawk. Why am I blanking on Hawks? Hawkeye, yeah, the Hawkeye show.
The Hawk Man.
There's just a little bit of time before Hawkeye started, and then just a little bit before the next one, a little bit before the next one. So, I mean, if we just dedicated ourselves to Marvel shows, we would be there like pigs in slop. And as far as I know, no one actually watched that Groot show, because nobody I talked to has ever mentioned it once.
Same with the She-Hulk show. I don't know anybody who watched it.
I watched it all.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Is it good?
I liked it. It's not a good show, but I liked it.
Interesting.
How's that? Yeah.
Well, I mean, you liking it matters more than it being a good show to me. If you like something, I'm game. If it's a good show, that kind of matters a lot less.
Yeah. It's not as groundbreaking as it could be. It's not, I think Loki took more chances, but I liked the She-Hulk character a lot. I liked the actress that played her a lot. I like the chemistry of the characters. I like the whole fourth wall breaking. So yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I would recommend it to people who aren't going to get weirded out by the Hulk twerking with Megan Thee Stallion.
Might be the same. Those might be the same people that get angry about black elves.
Yeah.
Black dwarfs. Cool guys. At least we don't have to listen to that for 2 years, or we do.
Yeah. What's the next outrage going to be? Are they going to cast somebody? Are they going to cast an Asian person in Quantum Leap? Like, that would be horrible, right?
Is that a thing? Did they do that?
They did, and nobody said boo.
Because Quantum Leap was not something that anybody, I guess, cared enough about.
Yeah.
Or the fans are not abhorrent human beings. At least the vocal ones aren't.
Yeah. I almost suggested, in fact, I think I did suggest that we do Quantum Leap at one point, and we would be like pigs in slop now. They'd probably be hiring us to do the new post Quantum Leap episode recaps on NBC Podcast Network.
Is that real?
It's probably not a real thing, but there might be.
Man.
I might have just given oh God, I can't even remember who runs NBC anymore.
Les Moonves?
I almost said Les Moonves. Is he even still alive?
No, but I think he's one of those guys that got hashtag canceled. So
okay. Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. I'm glad that we don't do that kind of podcasting where we only follow new stuff, because the other thing about this show and just shows like this that was kind of hard to do was, like, it feels like now I understand the season a lot better now that I've seen everything.
Right.
Like most of the weeks, it was just like us trying to figure out what was really going on.
Well, yeah, there was at least one episode where I was just utterly confused and honestly had to watch it a second time to figure out what was going on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't watch new TV like this anyways. I watch it once the show's like completely over or the season's over, but for that exact reason, because I'm just not one of those people that likes to have, I'm a cliffhanger, like that doesn't do anything for me. So I just avoid watching things while they're on. So like, I love Westworld. I still haven't even watched the third season of their fourth season. I haven't even watched it yet. Like, cause I didn't want to watch it while it was on. And I know that show does similarly to what this show did, which was give you something right at the end of every episode to stick around for. So,
well, yeah. And then you could have a show where it just completely shits the bed at the end. And then by not watching it, you've avoided it. So
yeah, right.
I'm thinking of me not watching Game of Thrones.
Right. Yeah.
Because people will still tell me, oh my God, oh, you haven't watched Game of Thrones. Oh, you would love it so much. And I go, yeah, I hear it ended really well.
Yeah.
And then that just shuts them up. So
Game of Thrones House of the Dragon, though, might be worth watching.
Oh, okay.
I have been enjoying that immensely. But again, also, it's one of those things where it's only the first season.
Would I understand it if I haven't seen the entire Game of Thrones?
Yeah, you would actually probably benefit from having not seen Game of Thrones, because some of the things in that show that they mention foreshadowing wise are fucking nightmares when they actually show up in the actual later show. Like the foreshadowing and the things that they talk about, the way that they end up happening is not the way that clearly George R.R. Martin, who is working directly on House of the Dragon, wanted them to happen in that show. So he's just like, fuck you, I'm just going to rewrite it, whatever. Like, okay. It's his source material, like if anyone's going to rewrite it, like let him do it, I guess.
Yeah. It's his world. We all just live in it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I tend to, like you said, and then if you really avoid it, you might avoid the bullet completely. So I think you could watch Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, and have no previous frame of reference with the other source material, and I think you'd be fine. Lord of the Rings, this show, I think it does a pretty good job of succeeding in that respect too. Like, you don't have to be a Tolkien fan to get into the show.
Yeah, no, I would agree. it might make you chill out a little bit if you didn't know all of the stuff. I mean,
right?
maybe it's my ignorance that is making me enjoy this show, but then you enjoy it and you know a lot more about this stuff than I do.
Well, and the thing is, I also enjoy it because I have gotten to the point where getting angry about casting on the internet is just, I don't have the energy for that. I have, you know what I have energy for? Sitting down and watching the show and talking about it with you. I don't have time to sit and scream online with other people about it because I take my time and I use it in a positive way to analyze the show, critique it subjectively and objectively, and then move on. Like, I don't give a shit about the casting because if they do a good job, it doesn't matter who the fuck it is. Remember how mad people got about Michael Keaton as Batman? It's a white guy as Batman that you assholes couldn't even wrap your heads around because he was too short. Like, shut the fuck up.
He was a comedic actor. Comedic actors shouldn't be in there. What's he going to do? Start cracking jokes all the time?
Yeah. You want to get nuts? Yeah. Yeah. Like, fuck you, internet cognoscenti or whatever you believe yourself to be, because you're not the cognoscenti. It's just, yeah, I'm actually with you. If you did not know Lord of the Rings, you could probably super duper get into the show, be surprised by the twists. Still, I mean, if you don't know who Gandalf is, I would be surprised, but like still find some of the twists and turns to be maybe, like you said, even a lot more fun than someone who does have a frame of reference for the source material. So watch this season of the show. It's pretty good. So
we will be back at some point. We don't know when, but don't put us in mothballs. Keep being subscribed to this show if you enjoy it. I think there's what are we up to? Like 5 listeners now? Maybe 6?
Three.
Okay. 3. Okay, yeah. Your mom, my mom, and then Mark Begley.
Oh wow. That's fair. That could be. I don't know if he watches stuff like this. I don't
know. Yeah. No, he's too busy watching good horror movies.
Like The Woman in the Window.
Yes, exactly. But until we come back with another episode of the Podcast of Power, we are both hanging out over at weirdingwaymedia.com.
Yeah, that's where you can find us. 19 shows and counting. And if you like us covering new shows, let us know, because this was fun. It was like, 7 weeks of commitment. It wasn't that big of a deal.
Yeah, no, exactly 7 because of the first episode being 2.
And shows don't run for 23 episodes a season like the X-Files anymore. So there's a little bit more of a manageable commitment in a lot of ways. So
yeah, even if this did run 10 episodes or maybe 12, they'd probably still do that thing where they do a midwinter break. So we wouldn't get a new episode until February anyway.
Well, that's what DC Titans is doing, they're doing a mid-season break. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know when we come back. I'm excited for when we do come back, but it could literally be 2 years.
And if we've got any LOTR content in the meantime, we might as well put it here. And we should give a plug. We did a discussion of Return of the King and The Hobbit, and we talked a little bit about Bakshi's Lord of the Rings as well over at the other podcast, or one other podcast that we do, Rankin' on Bass. So I can put a link to that in the show notes, or Chris can actually, because this is your baby here, Chris. So
that's true. And also, we covered Lord of the Rings, the first 3 films on the Kulturecast 2 years ago. And I spoke with John Noble, who played everybody's grape tomato eating villain Denethor, which was a fun interview. And he was a treat because I'm also, as I know you are, a big fan of Fringe.
Oh, yeah.
So it was hard to not fanboy that entire interview. But yeah, I think that's it for Lord of the Rings content between the two of us. We've never covered The Hobbit. Not yet.
Not yet.
It needs a reappraisal.
Oh boy. Like suddenly they say Attack of the Clones is a good movie.
Yeah. Boy, all it took was 20 years and a lot of smoke and grass to really wrap our heads around that one. God.
The quality standards are just being lowered every day.
I know. God.